Hello there, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Samantha and this is my channel where I talk all about books. Anyway, today I'm coming to you with my August wrap up. In the month of August, I read 6 books, which I don't think is too bad considering the fact that I started a job in August. And also I went on a holiday for 10 days and I didn't really read anything during that time. So these were all books that I read before then. So I don't think that's too bad. I did try and take part in the Enneagram readathon, which I did post a TBR for, and I also posted like an August TBR. So I'll link that video up in the card in case you are interested in comparing how the two went. But I failed. I failed at the Enneagramathon, not gonna lie. I'm sorry, type 6s, I let you down. But to be fair, part of that was because my library did not get in the book that I needed to complete the Enneagramathon, so it wasn't entirely my fault. It was just partially my fault. But you know what? I don't care. It's fine. This month was actually really great in some ways because I found a new favorite book and I also was very disappointed by a book. So I think we have some interesting things to talk about. Before I continue on, I'm just going to address the elephant in the room. I burned my wrist on some boiling water, so if you see it, I'm going to try and keep it out of shot as much as possible because it is pretty gross looking. But if you catch glimpses of my wrist looking very raw, it's because I burned myself really badly on my holiday. So that's fun. It's okay now. It doesn't hurt too badly anymore, but it was very bad at the time. We were actually on a cruise ship and the doctor on the ship, his previous job had been in a burns unit. So we were actually very lucky that he was there because it could have been a lot worse than it was. Not too bad, but in case you catch it, that's what it is. Anyway, let's talk about the books. So the first 2 books I'm going to talk about are Heartstopper Volume 3 and 4 by Oseman. I read the first volume in June and I loved it and I've just continued on since then. I gave both volumes a 4.5 out of 5 stars. This really is for no reason apart from the fact that I arbitrarily only give out 5 stars to favorite books. And by that I mean like books that I'm going to reread. I like know that I'm going to reread them. I want to own them. I want to be around them all the time. As much as I really like these graphic novels, they're just not something that I see myself rereading all the time. But I do love them. I love the characters. They're so cute and wholesome. You know what? Maybe I should just bump it up to a 5 star because like I probably will reread it at some point. It's just like it's not something that I feel like I need to own. But every time I read it, I really enjoy it. So yeah, I don't know. But if you don't know what Heartstopper is about, it basically follows our 2 main characters, Nick and Charlie. Charlie is gay and he's out to his whole school, and Charlie and Nick get put in the same form group, and which I think is basically like the equivalent of like homeroom in the US. I don't know though because I've never been to school in the US, so I wouldn't know, but I assume it's the same sort of thing as homeroom. Anyway, they're put in the same form group. Nick is 1 year older than Charlie, and they just become really close friends and maybe something more, but Nick is not out. So yes, it's just about their relationship. It's very cute, very wholesome, although I will say that volumes 3 and 4 definitely start to touch on heavier topics like mental health. Volume 4 in particular has a large focus on eating disorders, so trigger warning for that. But yeah, these just, they're great. I love them. They're probably like a 5 star. So next I'm going to talk about The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie Mackesy. This is a like picture book and it's just a very sweet book that follows a boy, a mole, a fox, and a horse. So the boy meets the mole, then they meet the fox, then they meet the horse, and they all just kind of go on this little walking adventure together and just talk. And it's got to focus on like mental health and just like being loved, and it's just very, very sweet. The main reason I read this was because first of all, my library had it, and second of all, last year I was walking a neighbor's dog for them during the lockdown, the first lockdown. We had 3 here in England, but yeah, during the first lockdown I was walking their dog for them, and as a thank you they gave me this t-shirt, which I'll put a picture in, but this t-shirt is from this book. So because I have this t-shirt, I was like, you know what, I should definitely read that book at some point, and I'm glad I did. It was very short. I read it super quickly. The illustrations were beautiful, and yeah, I would highly recommend it if you just need something that's just very wholesome and sweet, but also thought-provoking. I enjoyed it. Maybe not thought-provoking, but thoughtful. Anyway, there you go. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars as well. Not something I'll reread, but pretty good. Next, we have the 4th book in the Georgia Nicholson series, which is Dancing in My Nuddy Pants. This is by Louise Rennison. If you don't know what the series is about, it basically follows our main character, Georgia Nicholson, and it just follows her going to school, hanging out with friends, starting to date boys, her very strange little sister and cat who are just mad. Yeah, it's very, very, very funny, but also very dated. This came out in the early 2000s. lessons, and it shows. A lot of the jokes are just not okay, but if you just ignore them, then it is quite funny, the rest of it. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I originally read these books like 6 years ago, and I used to take them with me to babysitting, and I would literally get through like 2 in a night. I would just be sitting there reading, having such a fun time. So yeah, they're very nostalgic for me, but I wouldn't recommend them necessarily. But yeah, I gave this one a 4 stars. But yeah, wouldn't recommend, but I enjoy them because of the nostalgia. Anyway, now reading on to the 2 juicy books. We have a disappointment and we have a new favorite. I'm going to start with a disappointment, and that was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by Victoria Schwab. This was one of my most anticipated books of last year, and I've owned it since I bought this for myself in December of last year as a little present to myself. Actually, I used a gift card, so I guess it's a present for my dad technically. But anyway, I treated myself to this book. I never buy books anymore, but I bought this one because I was like, I need to read this and I need to own it because it's so gorgeous and I'm gonna love it. And I didn't. I'm sure you know what this book is about because it has been so talked about, but it basically follows our main character, Addie LaRue, who makes a deal with the devil, kind of. Not really the devil, but whatever. Makes a deal with him on the eve of her wedding because she doesn't want to get married and get like trapped in a family. So she makes this deal, which basically means that she can live forever. But the catch is that no one remembers her. They don't remember her name, her face, anything like that. So it makes living pretty difficult and very lonely. One day, about 300 years after this curse has been put on her, she meets this guy called Henry, and he remembers her. And that's your basic storyline. This book had so much potential to be amazing. I think she could have done it so much better than she did. I found this book to be so boring. Oh my god, nothing happened. Nothing happened for 560 pages. Nothing. And I don't understand why. It was just, I don't know. It just talked about her and her like relationships with people, but then, oh, they wouldn't remember her, and just so much about that. And I was like, okay, we get it. No one remembers you and it's tough. But like, I would have loved to see more of her travels and like how she got around with her travels, especially because she was born in the 1700s and that's when the deal was made. And so, you know, it would have been pretty difficult to get from point A to B back then. And she ends up in America from France, and it's like, how did you get there? So seeing her travels would have been way more interesting, learning more about how, like, why, I don't know. I just feel like nothing was explained that well and it wasn't interesting enough. And she could have got up to so many hijinks and just didn't. I don't feel like we got that. I don't know. It was just, I don't know. It just wasn't it. And I wanted it to be it, but it wasn't. I ended up originally giving it 3 stars because I was just like, oh, this was fine. But actually, I'm just so mad that this was so average that I lowered it to a 2.5 out of 5 stars because I was feeling salty. So yeah, it's getting a 2.5 out of 5 stars for me. I'm gonna be unholing it because I'm just so disappointed. Victoria has let me down. I'm sorry, but she has. I've loved so many of her books, but this one was not for me. And I'm sad because so many people love it and I thought I would too, but I didn't. I just didn't. Enough ranting about The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Let's talk about my favorite book of the year so far. This book made me love reading again. I swear, all of the other fiction books that I've read this year, they just don't compare to this book. And that book is The Rose Code by Kate Quinn. A masterpiece, truly a masterpiece. I just need to say a quick thank you again to Noelle from Noelle's 7 Pages for raving about this book in one of her recent wrap-ups. If she hadn't talked about how much she loved this book, I don't think I would have picked it up for ages because it is a tome. My copy was over 600 pages. It is massive. It's also historical fiction, which I love, but for some reason I'm super intimidated by it. So even though I love it, I never reach for it. But yeah, I wouldn't have picked this up for ages if Noelle hadn't raved about it, but then she did, and I was like, I am convinced. So I immediately got it from my library, and I need to own this book. Oh my god, it's a new favorite. I love it so much. Okay, let me tell you what this book is about. So this book is set during World War II in England, and it follows 3 women who each come from different backgrounds, but they all end up working in this place called Bletchley Park, which is where the code breakers worked during the Second World War. So it's all very secretive because the work that they were doing could not be shared. It follows our 3 main characters, Osla, Mab, and Beth, who are all doing different things within Bletchley Park. So we get 2 different timelines in the story. The first starts in 1940, and it's when these 3 women meet and they become friends. And then we switch forward to 1947, where the women are no longer on speaking terms. One has ended up in an insane asylum, and there has been some sort of betrayal. And so you get bits and pieces from 1947 throughout the other timeline. So the whole time you're wondering, how did we get from that to this? And oh my god, the way it came together, amazing. I loved this so much. I loved all of the characters so much. I can't even tell you. It was just amazing. I will say, I kind of predicted something that happened in this book. I had an idea kind of early on, and then I kind of ruled that out because I was like, I don't know, but I was actually right in my prediction. I won't tell you what the thing is, obviously, because that's a massive spoiler. So I did actually guess something, but that didn't actually affect my opinion of it at all, clearly, because I freaking loved it. Apart from guessing something, the rest of this book was flawless, and I honestly loved it so much. So freaking good. It's a chunker, but it's so worth your time. I can't. I have no other words to describe how good this is. And I plan to read everything that Quinn has written because perfection. Anyway, so those were the 6 books that I read in August. Overall, it was a pretty good reading month. I enjoyed most of the things that I read. I had that one disappointment of Addie LaRue, but it's fine. We can just try and forget about her because everyone else did. But yeah, so those are all the books that I read. Please let me know what you read down below. I would love to know. Let me know your most recent 5-star, because we all know that I need the 5-star recommendations because the year has been disappointing in terms of books. Not August. August is great. The rest of the year, I've had a lot of 3 stars. So yeah, give me your 5-star recommendations. I want to know, or like your most recent favorite book. I want to know. Anyway, that is all that I have for this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please get a thumbs up. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe down below. If you made it till the end, leave me a rose emoji because of the rose code, or just a flower. Any flower will do. But that's all I have, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye!